girls talk, did you hear good things? Was it like, oh, this guy, like, oh, or was it like, oh, my boyfriend's so great. He like sends me flowers. I'm Emily Calloway, and this is Kismet. Kismet is a podcast featuring your true love stories. Today, I will be speaking with Diana, who will be sharing her story of all the misconnections and the times that she should have met her husband before she actually did. Hi, Diana.
Hi.
Welcome to Kismet. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
It's my pleasure. So we met on Reddit, which is an interesting way to get connected, but I appreciate you following up and reaching out because your story has all the sort of like misconnections that I love to tell in my Kismet stories. I'm so fascinated how people's paths can cross and they never meet until the timing is right for them to meet. So to get started, I'd love for you to just give us an introduction to yourself. Tell us a little bit about you, who you are, your interests, and we'll go from there.
My name is Diana, and I met you on Reddit because I am a fellow podcaster. It was in one of the podcasting groups, and podcasting is very much a part of my life. I have a couple of them, and one in the works. So I also consider myself a freelance writer and journalist, but it's a lot more difficult these days with AI to keep that going. So I am focused more on audio storytelling now, as much as possible. I'm also very interested in plants and plant medicine, which is the focus of one of my podcasts. And I'm a mother, so that's a big part of who I am these days.
Well, to your point about the podcasting, it's interesting how addictive it becomes, like how all-consuming, because I certainly have thought about, okay, like once I get this one down, like maybe I start another one. I'm like, no, Emily, you need to slow your roll. Make sure you figure this one out first before you start piling on more. But I don't know. It's just so many topics to explore out there, so many interesting people to talk to.
And you can always keep a notebook. I have an ongoing list of things that I want. Like, this is going to be a podcast someday. And sometimes they don't work out. You know, we had one that we thought was a brilliant idea, and then we realized it might be a little too niche. Maybe right now isn't the time for it. So we'll revisit it at some point. But we tried it, and it was fun to try.
They say niche is the way to go. I thought about like originally doing something along the lines of like what I do for my work, which is in recruiting. And then I was like, do I really want to talk about recruiting when I'm not actually recruiting? Mm-hmm. And the answer to that is no. So that's sort of my baseline nowadays is like, what actually, it's so much work. It's like, what actually am I excited to talk about? And hearing stories like yours is what I am excited to talk about. So I'd love to just hear a little bit about sort of your journey to finding your person, how you met, like the whole Kismet story of it all. It's a really interesting story with a lot of the misconnections aspects that I love for this podcast. So tell me.
Okay, so we had mutual friends, but we didn't know each other.
Give us a time frame in life. Like where were you? How old were you?
Right. So he had dated an acquaintance of mine in high school. He went to a neighboring rival high school, and I knew of him because we had a mutual friend who had another friend. Like we had a friend, and he dated a friend of a friend, if that makes sense. So I had heard about him. Like I would call her an acquaintance. We weren't really good friends. We just had a lot of mutual friends. But I knew her.
Now girls talk. Did you hear good things? Was it like, oh, this guy, like, oh, you know, or whatever? Or was it like, oh, my boyfriend's so great. He like sends me flowers. Like or was it just like, what was sort of the scoop on him back in those days?
He was a romantic. I had heard that he had done like kind of, oh my gosh, I'm going to blank on the movie, but you know, the John Cusack holding up the radio thing. He had done something to that effect outside of her school, which was my school. but I didn't see it.
Oh,
I
wow.
wasn't there. I probably had left early. Um, but I heard a lot about how romantic he was, but she also was dating someone else. She cheated on him. She's now married to the person she cheated on
Oh.
him with. So it worked out.
Say Anything is
Right,
the
that's
movie.
it.
Say
Yes.
Anything. It just came to
Yes.
me. Well, that's a big deal in
Yeah.
high school to, like, have that kind of, like, to do that in front of the school. Okay.
Yes.
So that bodes well that he's, like, into big displays of affection. So, you know of him in high school. Did you know what he looked like or anything, or was it just like, "Oh, this guy that a friend of a friend dates, and he's really romantic, but for some reason she cheats on
Right.
him."
No, I
Um,
had only met the one she cheated on with, actually. Um,
okay.
but
Okay.
she kind of kept going back to him, and so I'd heard about it, throughout those stories, and I had heard like his name. I didn't know what he looked like. And our
Mhm.
mutual friend had tried to keep
Mhm.
she tried to keep me at her house one time when he was there. Well, he was coming after I was like leaving. She was like, "Why don't you stay a little bit
Mhm.
longer? JR is going to come over. You can meet him." And I had something else to do, so I went home. Um, there was another time where we were at the same church, but we didn't find that out until much
Mhm.
later. As children,
Mhm.
we attended the same church.
Mhm. Wow.
I'm trying to think of it.
Are you the same you're the same age?
Yes,
Are
yes,
you
we're
the
the
same
same
age?
age.
Okay.
So he's just a couple of months older than me, but yes, we're the same
Yeah.
age.
No, I just think about my own church. I was like, would I remember people that I went to I mean, went to Sunday
Right.
school and all that sort of stuff, but I'm like, there's some people that went to different schools that I think I would definitely know, and other people I'm like, I wonder. So, that was where my mind was going with it.
Yes, it was a very
Yeah.
big church and a very big school. I mean, it was a huge school.
Mhm.
So, yeah,
Okay.
me being able to spot him, even if I had met him, probably was unlikely at the time.
Yeah.
But,
Mhm.
it's just really interesting that we found out that we were like at the same concert. We had another friend that went to his high school who was friends with my friends, and I had been over that guy's house on the same night that he was there for a party. And I was there with my then boyfriend, and I wasn't really being very
Mhm.
sociable because I wasn't really in a good mood. So I wasn't really in the mood to meet new people anyway. So even if I had met
Yeah.
him, it probably wouldn't have gone very well.
You went to separate high schools, you went to church together when you were little but didn't know each other. You had mutual friends that would invite you to the same parties or over on the same nights, but you would just like miss each other, or just because your state of mind not able to visually recognize that this person was in the
Yeah.
room with you. So when you actually have that first meeting, where were you? Take us to that point. Like, how did it happen? Were you dating anyone at that point, or were you single? And like, what point in life were you at essentially, for this cosmic meeting to finally occur?
I was at the point where I was just giving up on love, essentially. I shouldn't say giving
Mm,
up on love, but I was pretty cynical about it. I kind of just
mhm,
figured I would have a companion. I wasn't looking to
mhm,
ever get married. I stated that many
mhm,
times.
mhm,
And yeah, I wasn't in a good relationship, but it wasn't terrible. But it was also like towards
mhm,
the end. Like it should have ended a long time before that. But
mhm.
I just didn't want to deal with that, I guess. And
Yeah.
so I was invited to a party at a friend's house. It was the same mutual friend that we had that wanted me to stay at her house. And
So your friend is like trying to be a
yeah,
Cupid. I mean, maybe not trying, but like is the universe is sort of like putting her or them in
yeah,
this position to be a matchmaker for years now. So how old are you at this point?
like 23, I want to say. 20,
23?
yeah,
Okay.
about.
So like five-ish years. I don't do math well. But I think five-ish years from graduating from
Yeah.
high school. So, okay, this has been like a sort of a long time coming with all these sort of orbiting each other at all these events and stuff. So you go to this party. You're sort of in a like okay relationship. It's nearing the end. It's somebody that you've been dating for a
Yes,
while,
for a very
or
long time. It was like 6 years, I think, at that point.
okay, so
Yes,
high school
yes,
boyfriend.
and
Okay. Okay. So was he at the party too, or was it just you?
no, no, we
Okay.
that was another thing. We really didn't do a lot together. We didn't have a lot in
Mm-hmm.
common. I'm not really sure why we stayed
Mm.
together as long as we did, to be honest with you.
Easier sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I was invited to a party of our mutual friend, who's coincidentally, it's her birthday today. But anyway, I got there and I wasn't really having that much fun at first, but then my husband showed up and my friend said, well, my now husband, JR, showed up and my friend said, come here, I want you to meet somebody. And she dragged me across the room to meet him. And she's like, you both like movies, you both like books, like discuss kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't even know. We just started talking about movies. He was like, what's your favorite movie? And we just started talking endlessly about movies. And we still do that to this day.
So what was your first impression of him? Like what when you saw him and you were in this room with him and you weren't having a good time at this party and then this person shows up, like did that change the mood of things? Did you immediately feel a spark there? Like what was that experience like for you?
Well, before I officially met him, he had walked into the kitchen where I was standing. And I
Mhm.
don't know, I just thought like, I felt like things slowed down, you know? And it was
Mm.
almost like a movie scene, honestly, because he came in like looking so cool, in my opinion, and just like, I don't know, he just had this air about him that I was like, what? Who is this guy? Like, you know, and so I was kind of
Mhm.
like a little excited when my friend dragged me across the room to meet him. I wasn't able to pinpoint the feelings I had at the time. I didn't
Mhm.
think that it was an attraction because I hadn't felt anything like it, but I knew that it was like a
Mm.
magnetic pull. Like I just wanted to be around him. And like we just hit it off
Mm.
so quickly and so intensely. And I had so much fun with him. And so, you know, we had a great conversation. I stayed with him for the rest of the night. I ditched my friends who had brought me, basically.
Wow.
And he messaged me on MySpace when we got home
Mhm.
and was basically like, let's hang out again. So, you know, we used our friends as, you know, because I wasn't single. So it was just kind of like, oh, we'll go to the club together because this is what we do at the time.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
again, we spent the whole night just talking to each other and ignoring everyone else. And
Yeah.
then we just found every excuse to spend time with each other. You know, I got him a job where I was working at the time, and you would think that that would have worn down the chemistry,
Yeah.
but it didn't. It just
It was like you guys couldn't be kept
right,
apart. It's,
exactly.
it seems like just, like you said,
Yeah.
magnets. Like it's,
Like even when we were in each other in, you
yeah.
know, in our separate offices, we would do things like we would create a story and we would take turns adding to the story. Like I would email him a paragraph and he would email me a paragraph. My boss did not love
God, that's
that.
so cute. That's so cute.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And so eventually, obviously, like it turned to romance. So how did that sort of shift from friendship to romance happen? And I guess, where'd you go from there?
So he was telling me that he had feelings for me, but I kind of ignored it. I kind of just acted like he was just, you know, being silly, like flirtatious sort of a thing. I didn't really take it seriously because I think I was just afraid. I was coming from a place of fear.
Mhm.
And I tried to hook him up with a friend. And he was like, what are you
Oh,
doing?
yeah.
He basically told me to stop playing games. And, you know,
Uh-huh.
we had a night where we had a work event and one thing led to another. And so that took our relationship to the next level. And
Yeah.
from then on, everything changed.
Okay. So, you had this one night stand that wasn't a one night stand, and broke up with your boyfriend. So, take us from that point on, like how the relationship developed and sort of the story of your love story.
So we kind of had to keep it secret for a little while because we were working together.
Mm,
My boss at the time was not keen on people dating each other in our office relationships.
yeah.
So we had to keep it secret, which of course made it way more exciting, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
100%.
but then he wound up uh, getting a different job, luckily, so we didn't have to keep it secret anymore. And we told everybody, and you know, the reactions were mixed because some people didn't like the fact that I broke up with my longtime boyfriend for him, you know, because
Mhm.
other people just got used to being around us as a couple. And
Mhm.
for the most part, though, people were happy for me. But also, there was a change in me. And some people couldn't really
Mhm.
accept that because, you know, I was used to friends and family members, not all of my friends, just to be clear about that, being more critical of me, like my, you know, just how I looked, the way I acted. I wasn't really being true to myself at that time. And I think it's
Mhm.
because I didn't really
Mhm.
feel accepted, like a true acceptance until I met JR. And he really just like loved who I was as a person, you know, and that made me feel more comfortable in my own skin. So I was eventually able to stand up for myself more, you know, break away from people who were being toxic. So, of course, that always kind of makes
Mhm.
things a little tense, but
Yeah.
those
Yeah.
people weren't really looking out for my best interest. They were looking out for the person that they wanted me to be. You know, like that's I wasn't
Right.
fitting that mold anymore. So, you know,
Yeah.
some waves were created because of that. But
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, I think that that's like that's very telling. You know, if you are with a partner who sees you for who you are, all aspects of who you
Hmm.
are, and sort of makes you feel safe to like fully embody that, you know, whole experience of who you
Hmm.
are, whether that's wearing different clothing, experimenting with, you know, I don't know, different interests or hobbies, speaking up for yourself, all of those things. Like, I think that's, I think that's what we all
Hmm.
want, you know? And, it sounds like you were just sort of finding your voice along that way, as we all are in our 20s, right? So we're all just sort of bumbling through, like trying to figure out who we are. And when we've been sort of locked into sort of how we grew up, our society, our parents, our schools, the people we grew up with, and especially, you know, you've also at that point been with the same boyfriend for a long time too. So that is like it's really sort of, I don't want to say locking you in, but it's sort of in a way like everything is very stable. It's been as it's
Hmm.
been for a very long time, and all of a sudden this new person comes in and you're feeling freer and you're feeling supported in a different way, and I
Absolutely.
think that's really
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. And I mean, to your point, when we were young, and you know, you do change a lot in your 20s and your 30s. And luckily we've been able to change together. We've grown together.
Yeah.
And you know, we've also been able to challenge each other to step out of our own comfort
Mhm.
zones for different reasons. And we always support each other no matter what. Like, he truly is my best friend. And he's the person I want to spend all my time with. And my son. We love
Yeah.
spending time with our son. He's like, it's a wonderful group. We've grown together though, and it's harder than it sounds, you know, because there are times where if you don't like force the other person to get out of their comfort zone, then you're just going to have
Mhm.
resentment build, And I had seen that happen a
Mhm.
lot with like my parents and other family members. And I really didn't want that to happen. So I'm more of a
Mhm.
person who will want to talk things out in the moment. He's not. He likes to take some time with it
Mhm.
sometimes. And I don't let that happen
Mhm.
usually. So, sometimes that can lead to very uncomfortable conversations. But past that discomfort is another level of intimacy that you can't really even imagine until you get there. It's it's like what that other person is thinking. That's how close you are because you've gone through all of these steps
Yeah.
together.
Absolutely. I mean, no one likes to have those sort of those tough conversations when things come up. Like it rocks the boat, it makes everyone uncomfortable, but to your point, like, you know, there is growth on the other side of it. There's understanding on the other side of it. There's love and acceptance and support and like, okay, how do we get past this? How do we, take that next step? Or how can I support you if you need to do this or that or the other?
Right.
So I'd love to hear sort of about some of those ways that like perhaps I think it'd be interesting. I've never asked this question before, but like maybe like what were some of the ways that you found yourself growing in this relationship? Some of those like challenges that, you felt supported in sort of exploring the full embodiment of who you are.
Well, in my career, for example, I've gone through a lot of different phases, and he's always supported me and always wanted what was best for me. But he also, after a lot of, nudging, has been able to tell me where I can where I can grow. I mean, it's not in a
Mhm.
critical way. It's in a like, okay, if you really want me to be honest, I will tell you that you're a little impatient. We can work on the patience, and
Mhm.
I do the same for him. I give him very honest feedback without being hurtful, because there is a big difference
Right.
between constructive criticism and just criticism, right? Or
Yeah.
unsolicited constructive criticism.
Yeah.
So he's always been able to tell me about myself without being offensive,
Yeah.
without without hurting my feelings really. And he also has helped me say like, okay, well, these are things that I'm good at. This is how I can implement this into a career. But also, having conversations like we just talked about, uncomfortable conversations, but like being really honest about where we are in our relationship. Like when we had our
Mhm.
son, that was a huge adjustment because even though we had wanted children in the beginning, it was more so because my doctor was telling me that I had to have children. It was something that society was telling us we wanted more than what we had actually wanted. So we had
Mhm.
gone 10 years without a child and we were living that way, so we had to adjust in
Mhm.
a major way. And so we
Mhm.
had to have some conversations. And one big part of one, I should say, one really important aspect of parenting for me is to keep my child out of the things that are going to hurt, like keep the parts of our relationship that might be a little sticky, might be a little messy, away from
Mhm.
him. You know what I mean? Not keeping
Mhm.
him in the dark,
Yeah.
but not including him in our problems. Not
Yeah.
parentifying him, um, letting
Mhm.
him be a child. So we've had a lot
Yeah.
of discussions about that and what that looks like. And sometimes we are not always on the same page, but we kind of get to a mutual standpoint so that we're not arguing in front of him. We do not argue in front of him. We will not
Mhm.
argue in front of him.
Mhm.
Um, you know, and just kind of talking through different things like, okay, so you don't agree with this particular approach. Tell me why. And then, we
Mhm.
keep working through it. And then sometimes he'll come to my side of things and sometimes I'll come to his. But it's a matter of just talking a lot. We talk a lot. We really
Yeah.
communicate. We don't just let, if he says, "Oh, I'm fine," and I don't feel like that's the case, I don't just let that go. It's like, what's really going on, that
Yeah.
sort of thing.
Yeah. I mean, that sounds like a true partnership. And that sounds like a very mature partnership. So, I mean, I was just thinking about like sort of what you were saying about the tough conversations and the feedback that you'd sort of give each other. And I think, I think it's important to sort of think about it as I'm so in my other life, I'm a recruiter. I work in talent acquisition. So I see people that are moving up the ladder and getting promotions, and I'm part of that process, right? Um, and one of the things is like, how do you take feedback, because you need feedback to grow up your career ladder. And like feedback should not be something like you're doing something wrong, you're wrong, there's something wrong with you. It's like none of us are born perfect. We acquire skills as we go. We learn things. We are works in
Hmm.
progress, so to speak. And so it shouldn't be like, taking it from a defensive standpoint, like, oh, there's something wrong with me, but oh, like to reach these places in my career or in my life that I want to get to, like it's nice to have someone that you feel safe enough to, have those conversations and say, "Hey, like this is a blind
Yeah.
spot for me," and be sort of supported to I don't
Well, you
know,
brought up a good point
grow
that
in
just
those
made me think
areas.
of something else. So one thing is that
Mhm.
I have a tendency not to try something if I don't think it's going to be perfect. I have control issues. And so he
Yeah.
will point that out to me. Like he has helped me take chances on things because I tend to say, oh, well, this isn't going to work out anyway, and give it up, you know? So he'll
Mhm.
push me, and
Mhm.
it doesn't
Mhm.
always work. Sometimes I'm just like, no, I'm not even going to try. But mostly, though, and especially lately, I have been trying to push myself out of it's not comfort zone, my control issues. It's like try to push past those and
Yeah.
like remind myself that I can't control it. It's better to do it than to have it be perfect. But also another thing that you made me think about was that when you were talking about earlier about being excited about what you're talking about on your podcast, that was one thing that
Yeah.
we worked through together because he is my audio editor and he's my
Mhm.
sometimes co-host on my one podcast, but we had one that we wound up ending that we had for over 7 years,
Mhm.
and it was about the cannabis industry, and he was working in the
Mhm.
cannabis industry at the time, and it was just wearing down on him so much. He was miserable, and it got to the point where he didn't want to continue the podcast when I still did. And so we had to really work through that because I wasn't, it wasn't that I wasn't seeing it from his point of view, but it was also hard for me to let go of something that I had, built up for so long. But the reality was I wasn't excited about it anymore. And he definitely
Yeah.
wasn't excited about it anymore. So we had to make the decision to end it. And it was a good decision to make, but it took me a while. I had to sit with it for a while.
Mhm. It seems like you both are a very safe place for each other, which I love. Like safe place to
Hmm.
explore and to, as you mentioned, move beyond your comfort level and boundaries, but also have those tough conversations, that impact both of your lives. I'm curious when you're talking about control issues and how he sort of pushes you out of your control issues. Is he on the other side? Like, is he somebody that's a little bit freer and more like, you know,
Oh, yeah.
is he someone that's a little bit freer when it comes to that sort of thing? Do you guys balance each other out?
Yes, I have been called type A. He is definitely more type B. But on the
Yeah.
flip side of that, he can be more controlling about certain things. Like when it comes to his job, like when he's doing work that he's getting
Mhm.
paid for, he can be kind of a perfectionist. But not to the
Mhm.
point where you'll see it on his face really, or it doesn't affect the rest of his day in the way that it will me if I don't have a talk with
Mhm.
myself and check myself a little
Yeah.
bit. I will say one of the biggest reasons why we are so passionate about plant medicine is because that does actually help us a lot. It helps me a lot. Not get in my
Mhm.
own way. get out of my head a little bit.
Mhm. I mean, whatever works. I'm someone that I'm more of the free-spirited one. Like I'm very
Hmm.
responsible. I'm always gonna like show up for work and get what's done because I am a bit of a people pleaser. So I want to be told good job and like you're the
Yeah, he's the
best and
same
get a
way.
big
He's that
A.
guy.
But I do it for other
Yeah.
people. I don't do it because I'm naturally like just really an excellent organized person. And so I tend to find myself like dating people that are more structured.
Hmm.
Because if I dated someone just like me, then I always joke I'd be like living on a hut in Thailand or somewhere. Like I'd just be like, selling coconuts on the
Yeah.
beach. I don't know.
Yeah.
Just I just am so impulsive and free spirited that I need someone to bring that structure. So I'm always curious if that's sort of the dynamics and in other people's relationships as well. It
Oh
sounds
yeah,
like you guys have a bit of
he's the
that going
same
on.
way. I even though I am like I guess more type A, I'm not a people pleaser as much as he is. I will not stay at a
Yeah.
job if they don't respect me. He will.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that
Mhm.
can cause some friction sometimes, but I understand it though. Like I get it. I understand that, but I also was raised by parents that didn't stick around in jobs. Like they weren't the types that would stay somewhere for 30
Mhm.
years just because, they got employee of the month or whatever it is, like, but they're miserable. Like that's just not how they did not display that type of behavior. So he did see that growing up,
Yeah.
however. So I think that kind of played into it a bit.
Yeah. It's interesting. I mean, how all of it just impacts who we are and who we develop into and the kinds of adults that we are in this world. So where are you guys now? So you said, you have a child. How's your child? How old is your child? I don't
I don't.
I think it sounded like I said, how is your child? How old is your child? How's life? How's life? What are you guys up to now?
um, our child is 7 years old. I had him
Mhm.
a geriatric pregnancy, as they call it. But yeah, he's doing really well. We are a neurodivergent family, so we kind of have our own way of
Mhm.
doing things. But my son, he's autistic, so it can be a
Mhm.
little challenging sometimes for us all to get our neurodivergence, sorted out.
Mhm.
Also sometimes works in the best of ways. We just we all have fun together. We always go on little adventures. We go on trail walks and hikes, and we try to go outside as much as possible. So that's like a big part of our
Mhm.
life. But yeah, we had him. Well, I guess it's over 7 years ago, though. But we really
Yeah.
were not expecting it. I was the type that was telling people like we're not having kids. We were living the life of child-free people. And I didn't find out I
Mhm.
was pregnant until I was almost 5 months pregnant. Like it was one of those like yeah. And
Wow.
if you ever see those shows where they're like, I didn't know I was pregnant. And I used to be like, how?
No.
Well, now I know. And when I was at the
Yeah.
doctor's office and they were doing the sonogram, I'm expecting to see a little speck, and it was like a fully
Yeah.
formed baby. I was like, I mean, I said, oh my God, like 10,000 times in a row. I was in genuine shock.
That happened to somebody I worked with, and she, I think, was like close to 7 months before she found out. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah, because if you have something like I have endometriosis, so things aren't always
Yeah.
normal, you know what I mean? And so or
Mhm.
they're never really normal. So I didn't really think anything of it. Plus, they had told me
Yeah.
multiple times because of my issues, my health issues, my endometriosis and Crohn's, that it probably wasn't going to happen. They tried to get me
Mhm.
to get pregnant before I even met my husband. My doctor was pressuring me
Oh,
to try
wow.
with my
Yeah.
then boyfriend, which can you imagine
Oh gosh.
where I'd be at right now?
Yeah.
So talk about kismet, because
Probably nowhere good.
yeah, he came. My son came at the perfect time, and like he gave me so much more purpose, and just like
Mhm.
really changed the way I thought about a lot of things. And yeah, I
Mhm.
I can't say enough. It was definitely at the right time. And even though it was super
Yeah.
unexpected, it was perfect.
Well, we talked about it a bit in our conversation before, but like, I think there is like some beauty about having kids a little bit later when you've been able to like sort of, do all the things, have all the fun, feel like feel like you've experienced life as a single person. I mean, I know you're married, but like
Yeah.
as a person without children out in the world. So I think there is some beauty to that for sure.
Oh, absolutely. I highly recommend it.
Oh my goodness. Um, well, that's awesome. So I'd love to hear sort of, from your perspective, I'd love to hear your advice that you would give to single people out there, like, give them hope in terms of, their right person being out there for
Yeah.
them.
So I would say, obviously, step out of your comfort zone. I'd say obviously because I mentioned it a bunch. I think a little bit more to that point, though, is if you think that your life is complicated, so is everyone else's, right? Like, don't ever think that you have too much going on or you have not enough figured out or, you just think that it's easier to be single. I understand that. But also having someone that you can rely on and you can talk to at any time, it's invaluable. And it's so worth all of the discomfort and all of the complications that you have to work through. It's not always easy, I know, but putting yourself out there, of course, it is more difficult nowadays, I feel like, than when I met my husband. But I think the most important thing is to do what you normally don't do. Fight against that thing that's holding you back, and get comfortable with the uncomfortable.
I think that's great advice, like fighting against what's holding you back and taking risks in your life. That's something that's whether, in most cases and most of the people I've talked to, it's been relationship risks. So they meet someone and next thing they know it, they're on a plane across the world for somebody that they met for like 10 minutes or something like that. Like that's a lot of the stories, but I think taking risks in life regardless, like there's a lot of reward that you wouldn't find on the other side. Like for you specifically, had you not, I guess, don't want to encourage anyone to cheat, but if you had not taken this risk getting to know your husband,
Yeah.
you might still be hanging out. Well,
Yeah.
you probably would not be married. I'm going to go out on a limb and say probably would not be married to your high school boyfriend, but you might have continued on in that relationship.
Oh yeah, I should have said I don't advocate cheating. I mean, especially not in marriage. I would never. Like I think it's a little more
Right.
it's a little more acceptable when you know that you're both not really being your best selves
Right.
in that relationship, not that it's
Yeah.
okay, but it situationally, sometimes you just have to take that jump
Yeah.
and see if that's a better fit.
Let's see. I mean, it seems like for the two of you, I mean, you were in that high school relationship that had run its
Yeah.
course and you both knew it and you
Mhm.
both wanted out, but neither one of you was willing to sort of cut that cord at that point.
Yeah.
And it sounds like your family and friends were sort of supportive of like you guys staying together because people don't like to rock the boat. They don't want to a lot of folks honestly don't want to be pushed out of their comfort zone.
Right.
We talked about going out of your comfort zone. But if you leave your boyfriend and you don't marry them and you've been together for like 7 or 8 years and you do something new and you try something new and everyone else is like, well, what about me? Like is that going to happen to me? Is someone going to leave me as I am like this life that I plan? Like, what if my life is thrown into chaos? And I think that's why a lot of people kind of like they use this sort of fear of things, chaos in their own life to sort of put their decision making on other people and try to hold them down,
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I think that's probably a lot of what you were experiencing back then. And you were like a little bird that had to flee the nest.
Yes.
and fly.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
but I mean, I think that like that is a risk though in itself, like leaving what was familiar
Yeah.
moving on with someone new and then exploring yourself and finding new paths and finding your way into podcasting
Right.
and all of these different journeys that you've been on. So I think essentially what I've learned is taking that risk is part of that self-exploratory process and also can lead you to meeting your person.
Yeah, and if it doesn't, you still learn a lot about yourself in the process, and you learn about what works for
Absolutely.
you and what doesn't. So I feel like it's a no lose situation to do that, honestly. But I think so many people are afraid.
Yeah.
They come from a place of fear, and when you let fear
Mhm.
control your decisions, then you're never truly
Mhm.
going to be happy because, you're holding yourself back. And I understand that, though. I mean, it's deeply ingrained, and sometimes it doesn't even present as fear. You have to like really peel the
Mhm.
layers back to figure out what's at the root of this, And a lot of it is what you
Mhm.
were used to growing up and seeing what was modeled,
Mhm.
like you see that and you go, "Oh, I don't want that to happen to me." So why even take
Yeah.
the chance?
Yeah. And I mean, to that point, you know, I think one of the things that I see, so I grew up in a very stable home environment. Like my parents stayed married until my dad's death last year. And, we never experienced them fighting or anything like that. Like it was very stable. And I think that's why I do have the freedom in my own life where I have felt more free to travel, like to live in California, to live in New York, to, do these things, to have this podcast because I know I have that safety net. Like I know that I have this like supportive family and I've always felt
That's
safe.
amazing.
I think if you grow up in it, yeah, it is. I'm so thankful and so blessed.
Mhm.
I think if you grow up in an environment where there's maybe more instability, then you crave that
Mhm.
stability. You don't want the chaos because you've experienced this chaos as a
Mhm.
child. And I think there's something to
Oh,
that,
absolutely.
that like, so, and I think it's even harder for those folks to perhaps like break out of this comfort. I'm comfortable, I'm stable, things are calm,
Yeah.
no one's fighting and it's easy. But it might not be fulfilling and it might not be, you know, I guess the max of what you could experience or,
Yeah.
the biggest love or the biggest like career or
Yeah.
whatever the case might be for you.
Absolutely. You couldn't have said it better.
Yeah. So I have a question about your friend. So the friend that like has like tried to essentially play matchmaker. I don't know if she's trying to play matchmaker, but she knew that you two would get along. So was she like in the wedding?
Yes.
Like, are you still friends with this person to this day? Because it sounds like she like, I mean, she was really looking out for the two of y'all.
Absolutely. Yes, she was in the wedding party, and I just had a conversation with her before we recorded because, as I said, it's her birthday. So,
Yeah.
talk about kismet.
Happy birthday, friend.
You know?
Yeah.
But yes, she definitely was looking out for me, and I think that she unintentionally wanted us to get together. Like I don't think that was her initial reasoning, but I think she knew something was there. There was a possibility. And so, yeah, I'm very grateful for that.
Well, Diana, please tell everyone about how they can find you with your podcasts and your writings. Like, please share how they can follow you and learn about plant
Yeah.
medicine and all the great things that you
Oh,
have to
thank
say.
you. So for my writing, I hate to be this girl and say Google me, but I mean, I do have a link where my portfolio is, but it's on Muckrack, and I feel like that's not like always accessible when you Google. But anyway, as far as my podcasts are concerned, we develop our projects under the umbrella Your Highness Media. So if you look up Your Highness Media, we have a Substack where we list all of our podcasts, and we put our episodes in there, but we also create other types of content that fall under the umbrella of what we create. So one of our podcasts is called Getting Personal with Plant Medicine, and you can find that on any platform. And we have one coming up very soon. called We Blame Roseanne, and that has nothing to do with plant medicine.
Ooh,
That one is like a cultural critique podcast, if you will.
okay. Interesting. Like Roseanne Barr?
Yes, yes.
Oh, okay.
If you would, I can give you a little snippet of what it's about if you want me to. So we
Yeah.
basically are taking things like parentification as a punchline is the first episode,
Mhm.
and we're blaming Roseanne for it. We're using examples from the show and other things that she did outside of the show to kind of reflect how history repeats itself if we don't learn from these lessons, and
Mhm.
how media has such a big impact on society, and a lot of times people like to downplay
Mhm.
it by saying, oh, it's just a comfort show, it's just a sitcom, but those things still have ongoing impacts, and I argue that it has a lot to do with where we are today. And that's kind
Mhm.
of the impetus behind that, is that we're looking at it through the lens of what she created, and also how she made a lot of other people very famous who have had very big impacts
Mhm.
on the media landscape since then.
I think that's a really fascinating concept. I definitely wanna check that out, and what a great title too. I think a lot of people are gonna be drawn to that and, like, want to understand what this podcast is about. Well, thank you so much for being on today. I will link all of these things in the show notes as
Thank you.
well. But really appreciate the time that you've taken to just kind of share your story and your openness and vulnerability and all that good
Thank
stuff.
you. I really appreciate what you're doing. This is an amazing, amazing podcast, and it's a great idea,
Oh,
and you carry it very well. So thank you.
thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Thank you for listening to Kismet. Please like, subscribe, or comment so we can get these stories out for the people that really need to believe in love again. If you have your own Kismet story to share, please send it to me at kismetstoriespodcast@gmail.com. Until next time, be bold, be kind, and be open to everyday magic. Your person may be just down the street, and they may be just a misconnection until it's the right time for you to meet.